Good morning. Overcast sky, but it's nice out there for sure. Definitely a perfect day to get out for a stroll. We are celebrating Pride all week long, and there's so many great things to do, including a really gay history tour. And the curator of that tour is joining us now, Glenn Tkach. Glenn, thank you so much for coming in.
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
Your tour is amazing. Let's start off by talking about some of the unbelievable history in and around our city. And let's start off with Mr. North. Tell us about that.
Yeah, Ted North. So we cover a lot of different stories on the tour. Like you said, we have a lot of incredible history here. And one of the activists on this, the 50th year of decriminalization in Canada, we on the tour are celebrating one of the unsung heroes of that, Ted North. Everyone knows about Pierre Elliott Trudeau's activity in 1969 and how he put forward legal reform, but not everyone knows about Ted North, whose grassroots activism is what really led to this political change.
And did way more than what the government was doing, in fact, at the time.
That's right. Pierre Elliott Trudeau deserves credit for putting this through on a parliamentary level, but it was years of grassroots activism from our own community on the ground that is actually what changed the tide in Canada.
And let's talk about some of the protests that were going on at the time.
Yeah, so ever since 1958, Ted North was, for example, on the steps of the old Vancouver courthouse, which is now the Vancouver Art Gallery, advocating for change. He and a small group of brave protesters in 1958, if you can imagine that, were there with signs that said, "I am a human being." He had the courage to show up, as you just saw him on the screen, in a dress, in full drag, which was a courageous thing to do, and it did its job. It got him attention. It got him noticed. And he was chased off the steps in a real hurry by police. But he continued on all throughout the 1960s, organizing protests and then showing up in dresses and getting himself noticed.
And even after Bill C-150 in the early 1970s, there was incredible activism still taking place at that time. Tell us about that.
Yeah, it's true. The legal reform in 1969 didn't just automatically change the tide. In fact, a little-known fact is that arrests of gay men, in particular, did not go down after decriminalization in 1969. They actually went up. Yeah, and police kind of lashed back. They found other ways to persecute and to prosecute queer people. And so there were lots of different protests. One of the most notable protests here in Vancouver, and it's also it's a story that we discuss on the tour, is at the Castle Hotel, which is no longer there, but it was on Granville Street, Granville and Robson, where the Winners now is. And
here's a look at the historic photo.
Yeah, here's the old building. This is exactly what it used to look like. And the bar here at the Castle Hotel was a fairly popular queer hangout. Here you can see a protest that's happening in 1972 because the staff at the Castle threw their queer clientele out. And the queer clientele decided to fight back. One of the first backlash was in 1971 when a couple had been ejected for kissing in the bar, daring to kiss. And the queer community decided, no, we're not having this anymore. We're going to fight back. And they fought back in the gayest and most Canadian way I can think of, which is to organize a kiss-in. So we had our own Stonewall moment here in Vancouver, and it was not a riot, it was a kiss-in.
Okay, these are just some of the unbelievable stories that you tell on the tour. Tell us about how this came about and what people are going to experience, where it takes you to, and how you can get involved, how you can sign up to take the tour.
So the tour, we're running it every day of the week during Pride, and we run it all year long. Well, you can catch it every Sunday afternoon up until November. It runs in the afternoon. It starts in the downtown core on Granville Street, and then we make our way through the West End until we wind up, of course, in the heart of the Davie Street Village. And it's a 3-hour adventure, some just unbelievable history, and which you just got a taste of now. And you can sign up at forbiddenvancouver.ca.
That's where we find you, forbiddenvancouver.ca.
Correct.
How's it been going so far this week?
So far, so great. We've had huge crowds, people from all over the world. Just an overwhelmingly enthusiastic response. People are really touched and moved to hear these powerful stories.
Glenn, thanks so much for coming in, but more importantly, for setting up this tour and informing us.
Thank you, and happy Pride.
Happy Pride to you as well. Coming up, we will